This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 11, Episode 24, brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington on social media, and I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
And we're back discussing everything in Washington sports. And if you're looking for the videos, you can see them on YouTube, but also on X. Let's see, I'm on Blue Sky, which I like to think is Blueski, Instagram, and Facebook. So somewhere out there, I'm not making any money, but where are you on, Matt? Besides this,
I'm just on Twitter, X at FatMatt39.
There you go. So just try to follow us. All right, so as we do on every show, we're going to pick the score. I know you're thinking, wait a minute, they're not playing this week. Oh, that's okay. The next week, Washington 31, New Orleans 17.
That's Rick's subtle way of telling you there's no show next week. We would have saved that for the end, but hey, guess what? We're spoiling everything at the top of the show. Yeah. So, I'm with you. I'm in the 31 to 35 point range. I feel like New Orleans, they're out of it. They know they're out of it. They had a little bit of a miniature sale when they got rid of Lattimore. Yeah, it'll be a tough game. Obviously, they still have good players. They still have Kamara. They still have Carr. But I'm in the 31, 35 point to about 17 to 20 point range for New Orleans. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the Commanders.
And I know last week I took Tennessee,
and I did not.
I don't want to pick Washington 17 times. That makes me Larry Michaels. It's intangible. I mean, you got to. I was right when I said they would lose to Philly and Dallas. I mean, Philly and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So can't pick them all, but I thought Tennessee would be better than they were. To touch on it briefly, man, they threw up all over themselves repeatedly, and even there was that one drive. I think it was the third touchdown where Washington failed on 2 third down attempts, and the refs were like, "That's okay. We'll throw a flag. You keep going."
Yeah, we got a little bit of Kansas City Chiefs treatment on those 2 third downs, but it was something we didn't talk about the last show was because Tennessee had such a bad record going into the game. Their defense was top 5 in a lot of categories and top 10 in a lot of categories. So this was a good challenge that I guess we didn't realize that it was going to be such a good challenge, but I don't know where that number 2 defense was because they surely didn't show up on Sunday. But then again, the offense went out there and our defense went out there and gave the offense short fields to work with on the first 3 or 4 touchdowns. So, besides B-Rob's 40-yard run, which was nice to finally see him break one, a lot of them were short fields. So it's good to see our defense stepped up and took care of an offense, a very mediocre to bad offense. Tennessee's probably going to be QB shopping. So yeah, it was a good win. It was a good bounce back win after, playing 2 of the elite teams, I guess you could say, in Pittsburgh and Philly, and then kind of having a throw up all over yourself moment against Dallas. It was a good bounce back win, but I honestly, Rick, I'm still with the mentality that the only game that is not winnable, I would say, in the ones that are remaining is Philly, just because Philly is in a different stratosphere right now. They might be better, if not as good, then better than Detroit. But yeah, that's the only team. But like you always say, the Philly games are the most unpredictable ones, so they could go out there and spank Philadelphia.
You go 4-0, could go 0-4.
Yeah.
The one thing that really impressed me the most in the Tennessee game is Washington ran for 267 yards with B-Rob only doing 103, which means it gained another 160 yards. I mean, Chris Rodriguez just missed 100, after being cut for the 3rd time this season. That guy comes back and does that. And I'm like, wow, and a part of it, I think, is Cornelius Lucas was at right tackle. And they really opened some holes. And Lucas is a great spot starter. And while he's banged up, I personally would keep Lucas at right tackle right now because that was the best offensive line group I've seen a long time. They just blasted Tennessee off the ball.
Yeah, and Coleman has really rebounded from the concussion. I feel like he's back to playing normally. Yeah, Lucas on the right is definitely the way to go because Wiley's been a last year. Wiley was a penalty machine and a holding machine. This year his play has not been that much better. I know he's cut down on the penalties, but he really hasn't been that much better. If you look, a lot of the plays go towards the left side of the line, which sucks because you got Cosme out there on the right, who's a bulldozer. And then of course you got Jay Gruden's favorite player, Tyler Beat Ash or whatever he calls him up the middle. I love Jay Gruden on Twitter. He's hilarious. Yeah, it was a great offensive line combination. And like I said, for the number 2 defense coming in, they handled him pretty well. They got a couple sacks, but one of them was Daniel spun into. But yeah, it was a really good showing, and I would definitely where did this Chris Rodriguez come from? You know what I mean? This is a guy, like you said, got cut 3 times, kind of got passed over when they signed Eckler, and then Jeremy McNichols was the featured third running back, and Rodriguez was kind of on and off the practice squad, getting cut for whoever they needed to call up on the defensive line, and then he comes out and that dude was running like a man possessed.
They even had tryouts with 2 running backs on Friday before they decided he would stay.
Yeah.
But what wouldn't the like? Now they're on the bye this week. What Quinn decided to do was just told them all, come in Monday, treatment, whatever. I'll see you next week. So everybody flew out of town on Monday.
Well, they need it.
And they needed it. Some years they would do during bye week, they would make them practice like Wednesday, Thursday, and then give them Friday through Sunday off. But that's earlier in the season when you're still trying to work on. There's no secrets left. They've done the whole playbook. It's just all about getting rest now. So it was the right thing to do. I hope next year they don't make them have the bye again the last 4 years in a row. I mean, it really was a disadvantage again this year. And last year too, I thought. So it should be a little more fair with this. But the NFL, they think Dan still runs this place. So
Well, I also have a feeling next year that there will be more primetime games for this team. Obviously with success and having a dynamic player such as Jay Daniels, they're going to get him national spotlight. Hey, real quick, we just talked about players getting cut. The 4th domino has fallen. All of Ron Rivera's number 1 draft picks are now gone, with the Commanders for finally releasing Emmanuel Forbes. He was picked up by the Los Angeles Rams. So
I had a preseason bet with Grant Paulson at 106.7.
What I wanted to get to.
We sit next to each other at the games now. And I've known Grant since he was like 10. So, I told him in the last preseason game, I said, what are we going to bet on this year? I said, I'll bet you that Jamin Davis and Emmanuel Forbes are not on this roster at the end of the season if they get cut. And he's like, oh, there's no way. I said, I want 2-1 odds. This isn't a McDonald's for McDonald's bet. I get to go to the Palm or something. I've heard about it. And so, sure enough, they won it. When they didn't promote the kicker on Friday, I said, ooh, they're waiting until Saturday so they cut Forbes and minimum media because a lot of media is off Saturday night. So that's what they did. And because he was inactive 3 of 6 games, I knew he was the last man on the spot on there. So, he didn't play teams. I mean, he was just a guy. And Quinn said they had a talk, and he just said, I think a change of venue will do you good.
Yeah.
And I would think sometime soon, give it a week, somebody will pick him up because he's a former 1st-round pick.
Well, he's already been claimed.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, he got claimed by the Rams. Sean McVay claimed him.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I knew that or not.
Now, that's the surprising thing is both of those guys have been claimed. Jamin Davis went to the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if he's ever been elevated to the roster, but
he's Minnesota's team.
Oh, he's on Minnesota. They claimed him. Okay.
Yeah. Green Bay claimed him, put him on practice squad. I left him vulnerable, and the next week Minnesota grabbed him.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's between the 2 of us we figure it out. But
and also, I mean, Rick, going into the New Orleans game, obviously cutting Forbes leads to all the speculation in the world that Marshawn Lattimore is going to make his debut against his former team.
Yeah. Hey, why wouldn't he go? They're going to open again. When they come back, they're going to play at New Orleans. He wants to play in that game. He's been trending upward for 3 weeks now, so I think he could reach the top of this. Quinn loves to come up with names for stuff, and he said this will be base camp. We're going to be near the summit, but I don't want them looking up at the top. I want them to stay at the base camp this week. So that and they all call him Q, which just makes me laugh. But I like Dan Quinn. As long as they win, everybody likes him. If he loses, he's a bad guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean it's really, fast forward to where we are now. You and I were not high on that hiring, as a lot of people weren't. I mean, we figured that Quinn was the one that they had to settle for when Ben Johnson and all the Kubiaks and all them told him to go kick rocks.
I, I,
It's interesting how well Dan Quinn has worked.
I stood on the table for him. What are you talking about? Okay. I just thought he was the best of what was left. They wanted two other guys. It didn't work out. And I thought, well, there's a few things you want, and Quinn is one of them. So I figured that's who they were taking. And it's turned out pretty well. I mean, the interesting thing is in the off season, when they started the first drills, they did this Paris Island foot drill running back and forth like madmen. And I thought then, how's this going to play in November, December? Are they still going to do this? They still do it.
Yeah.
So that shows me they have the energy and they're still listening to them. Because if they were after 3 losses, they were like, "Yeah, you go run your own foot drill." Now they're into it, And I've seen a lot of teams practice terrible this time of year, goofing off Gruden's teams, among others, because he never cracked a whip. But Quinn's still on top of them. Still a positive guy. I mean, you'd want to play for Quinn if you're playing because he's not going to beat you up. Even if you screw up, he's going to. We're all going to, at HR now, you're going to sit there and go, well, let's try to do better, instead of somebody kicking you out the door in the old days.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't feel like he's ever been that really like hard nosed kind of guy. He is intense when he needs to be, but I just don't feel like he's that hard nosed guy where, we use the term players coach as a negative, but I do see him as a players coach, and these guys have responded. I mean, Rick, this is a bunch. This is the bad news Bears. Aside from maybe 5 or 6 guys, this is the bad news Bears that was put together with a 60% roster overhaul, and they're winning. You know what I mean? It's very, Quinn should be in consideration for coach of the year. I think Peters should be in consideration for executive of the year. They're making something out of nothing. Have there been stumbles? Yes. Have there been low points? Of course. They just came off of a 3-game losing streak. One of the games they probably should have not lost to the Cowboys, and they could have beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. They only lost by a point. But yeah, this is a ragtag bunch, man, and they're embracing it, and you can really tell the amount of respect and the amount of care that these guys have for one another. Real quick, I know as we talk roster turnover, this isn't on our rundown, but I did read an interesting article that Bobby Wagner called London Fletcher about, hey man, if you ever have time, I'd really love to pick your brain. And that was like in like 2019 or something like that. Well, Wagner just hit his 100th tackle for the season. He's done it 12 seasons in a row. Fletch is the leader with 13. I wonder what kind of bond and relationship those guys have shared now that they've both worn the same colors, not necessarily the same jersey, but Fletch is still local.
Yeah, I mean, he's the radio announcer with Bram.
Yep.
So he's the color guy, I guess, with color analysis. So I know they talk. So that is a great thing. There's a lot of similarities. I did not appreciate London Fletcher for how good he was when he played here. It was his third stop in a very long career, and it was good. And once they replaced him, I realized how good he was because they couldn't replace him until now.
Exactly.
Middle linebacker these years. So, I think London should be on the Hall of Fame ballots on this. You look at the overall, because I think Bobby Wagner's going to make the Hall of Fame.
For sure.
And, was he better than London? I don't know, maybe. That's pretty close.
And I know the argument is that Fletch does have a Super Bowl with St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. So that the tight, but see, the thing is, Fletcher was never the boisterous middle linebacker. He wasn't the guy to talk. He wasn't the guy to run his mouth. He wasn't the guy to make billboard material for the opponent. He was a quiet guy that came in and did his job. And I think that's why he gets disrespected. I don't even want to get into the Hall of Fame crap because it's preposterous who they're selecting to go and who they're not. But yeah, we can get into that another day. But yeah, I thought that was a really good article. And it just shows you, we talked, Bobby Wagner wanted to come to Washington because he's finishing up a master's or something program at Howard University. Like that was why he wanted to come to Washington, obviously to play for Quinn again and stuff like that. But it just shows you the type of guy that Bobby Wagner is, and he truly is the leader on the defense. He's a quiet leader. You almost had to from what Dan was saying is you almost had to bend his arm backwards to give the speech on Wednesday to fire these guys up. Like he didn't want to do it. He just wants to lead by example. But, those are the quality guys that this franchise has not had over the past couple of years. Zach Ertz is another one. Austin Eckler is another one. The quality veteran leadership that has come in here. Those three guys didn't just come here to get paid. Those three guys came here to compete and to win, and it's showing.
You said 60% roster turnover, which was their highest single year turnover since World War II. But there's only 12 guys now left. That was just the beginning number. Now it's like an 80% roster turnover. There's 12 left. I would say of the 12, 3 or 4 of them I could see not being back next year. I mean, they keep just moving through this roster. And because it's not their guys. It's easy.
All 4 of Ron's number ones are gone. How incredible is that? Have you ever seen anything like that?
No. I mean, there was a stretch where Bobby Beathard had no number ones. I mean, that was a long stretch. But when he did pick first, they were very good players. I can't remember a first round bust at all for Bobby Beathard. So there's been nothing like this, and it really does hurt them. This is if the 5th one came along with JD being a bust, franchise to be doomed again.
Well, luckily Jaden Daniels was not a Ron Rivera pick, but of the 4 Ron Rivera picks, I mean, 2 of them pretty much are busts. I mean, we can see maybe, like you said, maybe with Forbes, maybe with Davis, a change of scenery. We've seen that the change of scenery has not helped Chase Young, really. I mean, he's just kind of middling down there in New Orleans. Montez Sweat got a big deal from the Bears, but, I haven't really looked at his numbers. I mean, has he been that overwhelming guy that deserved $100 million?
No. I mean, he's a decent player, but he's not a great player. But
that's a guy that they traded up to go back into the first to get.
Yeah, and I mean, Chicago gave up, a top pick, a 3 for him, and he played well. He led both Washington and Chicago in sacks last year.
That was kind of random.
So a couple other things. Eckler. He's out 4 games because of that concussion. It was a bad one. So he would be eligible to come back for the finale against Dallas, and if they make the playoffs for that. So I guess that's why they don't just put him on season-ending IR. But I don't know. 2 concussions in the year, the second one a bad one. I think I might tell him to sit out the rest of the year because I don't want to see him drooling in his oatmeal.
And you've got him for another year. He will be back next year. He signed a 2-year deal, so he's a guarantee to be here next year, I guess you could say. Honestly, what I would do is I would activate him after the 4 weeks, kick the tires on him, see where he's at, condition wise. That's a guy that can only help you because he has playoff experience. If you're going to get into the playoffs, you need that playoff experience. That's a guy that has it. I would definitely test him going into Dallas week and see where he's at and then make the call there. That was a nasty concussion. And like you said, the second one of the season. And that's a guy that you're probably going to use a lot next year. But I would still kick the tires on him where he's at.
I'd worry about a 3rd concussion. I mean, that's life-changing.
Like you said, that's wheelchair bound.
Yeah, I don't want to see that for him. Jaden Daniels, top Pro Bowl on the NFC side for votes. Wow, a rookie making the starting Pro Bowl. That doesn't happen very often.
Oh, but Rick, don't worry about it. He won't be playing in the Pro Bowl because they're going to be in the Super Bowl.
Well, okay, but he'd be named to it at least. So
I had to get that in there. There were people calling 106.7 The Fan saying that yesterday.
Yeah. And then the team hired a new team president whose resume is very strong. I mean, this guy was I didn't notice at the time, he was the top man in his senior class at West Point. Not just a guy, he was number 1. Went in, flew helicopters for 6 years in the Army, became a captain that fast. Then he ran Kraft Food. Then he ran another company I didn't know. And then now he's with Campbell. So, soup for everybody there. I was just like, and then I saw a picture of him where he towers over Josh Harris. Josh Harris is not short.
No, this guy's like 6'8" and built of granite.
I thought, is this guy going to play guard?
I know. They can sign him up. Hey, cut Wiley, sign this guy up.
Oh, this guy's huge.
Yep.
So I was just like, wow, this guy's got everything on his resume. I told somebody at the park, I said, well, you'll love this guy unless he's got you running PT. It's dawn every day. I don't know what he's going to do, but this dude's a winner. And now
Yes.
it's for the money side of the team.
Right.
Jason Wright's replacement.
And that's what I was going to say. Jason Wright is exiting the team at the end of the season. We kind of knew that going in. This guy was brought in to replace him. He will handle your marketing, your, the stadium, the endorsements, stuff like that. It's very interesting that you bring him in when you did. I guess we could talk about, obviously, Josh Harris and Roger Goodell made a trip to Capitol Hill the other day. There's a rumor that Maryland wants like DC to give them F-16s or something like that. It's some random trade for that RFK land, but that's what I read.
Yeah, the National Guard Air Wing is based at Andrews, and my father-in-law, who you know well, was a part of that. He actually served in Vietnam,
Yes.
part of that group's deployment. So that's where they have those guys, so that if anybody threatens DC's airspace, they're up in 2 minutes. There's a guy 24 hours a day sitting in a room ready to run to that plane. And there's also, jets down at Pax River.
Yep.
I mean, are we suddenly defenseless or something against a foreign enemy that we need fighter jets? I don't understand that at all either. I thought this is the Maryland delegation just making some crazy request so they can go, well, we didn't want to kill the bill for RFK, but we tried to negotiate. Are you crazy? I mean, that was just laughable.
Yeah, and our buddy Steve over at the Hogsty, he kind of broke it down where basically what it breaks down to is like $500 million in jets or something like that. And of course, you still got the guy in Montana flapping about, we want to see the Redskins logo and da 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 da. I mean, there's a lot of people with some really wacky things in order to just get a damn stadium built. It's crazy, but hey, you know what? If Maryland wants some planes and the look, the Redskins thing, obviously Josh Harris has stated numerous times the name is not coming back. They're not going to rebrand as the Redskins. But as we've seen, I mean, Tennessee wears the Oilers gear once in a while. There are teams that wear old logos and stuff like that. It would be cool for, what do we got? Like the 85th or the 90th or some anniversary of the team coming up very shortly. If they could wear the Redskins helmet and logo and with the helmet rules being loosened to where these guys can wear different helmets throughout the season now, it would be cool if they could wear the Redskins logo on the helmet and wear the old Redskins jersey. Just don't, put Washington on the chest. Don't put Redskins or don't use the name. But I think it's a good idea. Plus, you could also sell Redskins merchandise and make some money on it because everybody's going to buy it.
Yeah, but if it's a racist logo, you can't put it on merchandise and sell it.
But has it really been deemed racist?
Well, we don't think so, but we're uneducated fools here in DC, so we don't know better.
I mean, I think it's pretty much been come to a conclusion like, hey, the logo's maybe not that racist considering it was drawn of a Indian chief by an Indian chief. It's there's a lot of things that have kind of come out with the Wetzel family. Like, hey, are you trying to erase our grandfather? Like, what's going on here? Obviously, like I said, the name probably will never return. But it would be cool to kind of see the logo. But for this guy, this random senator in Montana, for this to be his sticking point, like, come on, dude.
Oh, he's saying that RFK is the most valuable site in the interiors.
No, it's not.
I mean, come on, dude. Let's just start off with Yellowstone. You think RFK is worth more than all of Yellowstone Park?
It's more valuable to the raccoons that live in the stands because they haven't gone in the stadium in 10 years.
Yeah, everybody's afraid of going down in the stadium. Nobody wants to go down the bottom of the stadium.
No, they've shown overhead shots of the field. The grass has grown up. There's animals living all in the stadium.
Yeah, it's really life after people.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely Armageddon, like post-apocalyptic in there. It's really weird. But yeah, I mean, come on, dude. No, RFK and the RFK Stadium site is not more expensive or important to the interior than Yellowstone.
Yeah, or the National Mall, or Yosemite. I mean, we could just go.
Right, we go on and on. I can give you 100 of them before we get to RFK.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny, and that's a whole other discussion. But there's talks going on, but I don't know that the bill gets passed. It's got to be put in a spending bill. I don't know. It's just politicians, man. They're just
Well, it will be interesting to see what comes of it with RFK Jr. being in Trump's cabinet,
yeah.
come January. I mean, that was his father that's named after. So
Maybe they'll have a mass vac site there for him to run. I don't know.
that dude don't need no vaccines. I know we don't talk politics around here, but RFK Jr., he don't need no vaccines. That man he's cut for 70 years old.
Since it's bye week, we'll mention two other things since this is about Washington sports. The Wizards are 2-17. 2-17. My God. And it's not like they keep losing narrow games. They keep getting whipped every week. And I put something up on Twitter about it. I was surprised how many people chimed in. And they're like, oh, they're tanking for 2 seasons to get these guys. You mean they haven't been tanking before? I mean, they've been awful the last few years. They've been awful the last few years. And now you're 2-17. Jeez, this is unwatchable. And I have a friend who goes to all the games, and I'm like, how many people are here? And he goes, oh, they're probably about 3/4 full. I'm like, what idiots are going to these games? He goes, it's become
Other teams fans.
well, he said it's become a social thing too, where people dress up and come after work and all this. You people are crazy. The only way
So you can get tickets for $5.
I know. I once got a ticket for $1 at the game.
Look, and I'll say this: I don't watch college basketball, except for tournament time, so I don't know who's slated to go number one or over and all that stuff. But what I have noticed over the years with the NBA draft, there is no LeBron James, there is no Kobe Bryant. That was the thing. That's why they invented the draft lottery. And hell, the Wizards aren't even guaranteed to get the draft lottery, but that's why they invented it, was because they wanted teams to not tank. But I mean, Wembanyama was probably the last lock, and he's not LeBron yet. So I mean, what is the strategy here? I mean, look, we all know how the game of basketball is right now. You have to have the big three. It started with Miami and Boston. You have to have a big three in order to compete for a championship. And I'm sorry, I'm not watching FIBA, so I can't scout the latest, Barcelonan center. So, I don't know. I don't watch a lot of basketball, but it is frustrating to see, the Wiz went from, the days of Gill and them to then, the Wall Beal combo, and where they would scratch the playoffs, they would get in, they would usually lose in the first or second round, where at least they were fun to watch. Now it's just painful.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, they went to 4 NBA finals, believe it or not. They lost 3.
Yeah.
They won 4 NBA finals in a decade.
Yeah, because the Washington Bullets do not have a title. The Baltimore Bullets have a title.
Yeah,
right?
Have a title.
Oh, I thought Baltimore won that championship.
Yeah, it was 78, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they'd already been.
In 73 or 2. But yeah, it's just, I mean, people say they got to be a teardown. Like they haven't been in the last few years. They haven't been in a few years. The other last thing, Obi's skating. Like how long ago? 2-3 weeks ago.
He broke his leg 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So
now, it was light skating, but he's skating.
Yeah.
And he's almost 40 years old.
You wonder if he's going to I guess he'll make it back this season.
Look, you know me, Rick. Obviously, look what's on my head. I'm not the biggest Caps fan, but Jesus, that is impressive. The man is a machine. A Russian machine never break. He broke, but for 2 weeks. Now, I'm not saying he's going to show up and start playing tomorrow, but still, you and I break a leg, we're going to be down for a month. They might take us out back and shoot us and send us to the glue factory.
Yeah, it's like the guy who played in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, 6 months after tearing an Achilles. And I'm never, Achilles used to be a year. And then they made it to 9 months. They started doing that. But 6? What was going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, this is up there, and I'm gonna go. This is for like Mike Parlett and guys like that. John Cena ripped his pec off of his chest. John Cena's a wrestler. You know who he is.
Yes, he's in movies.
And he was supposed to be out like up to a year, if I'm not mistaken. He showed back up after 6 months and won the Royal Rumble. I mean, there are people out there that are superhuman. I get it, but obviously Ovi's one of them. It's impressive, and I do want to see him beat the record. I don't know. This will definitely be a setback, but I think he's down to like 28 goals or something like that to tie. So, he could take a big chunk and then focus on it next year and break it next year. I don't know.
And then he probably will retire and go play in Russia for a couple years.
Yeah, he's going to go make billions playing in Russia.
Yeah, because he wants to do that. I don't blame him. He wants to go home and play for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, his kids are growing up and everything like that. So, his dad, I think either his mom or his dad passed away not that long ago. So the other parent is over here. But yeah, I mean, he's going to go to Russia. He's going to make $1 billion playing in one of the KHL or one of those, and he'll be set for life.
And then he'll have as much money as I do. So anyway.
Oh, you are the one living in the big brand new house, not me. I'm in my garage.
Well, this house is 2 years old now.
Oh,
Got to get a new one.
gotcha.
All right. So next week we're taking off because Matt's tired. And so am I.
No, Rick's going to spend some of that $1 billion.
Yeah. Okay. Money, money, money. I got singles everywhere.
There you go.
And then hit the big stretch and we'll see what happens. So anyway, I got my bell out. I'm Rick Snyder. Thanks for coming.
Matt.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent with your hosts, Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.